All right, we are live. Welcome everyone to the ExXtian Erin after party. She has not shown up yet. I'm wondering if she's having issues with the computer or stuff because she was having them before we went live with the interview. But anyways, we've been discussing things about humanism and atheism and stuff like that here. So we're just going to carry on that conversation from the point we're talking about the differences between Canadian law and U.S. law with legislating. Stuff like that, right? So.
Pinesnake, could you just maybe talk briefly about what's going on with Humanism UK?
Yeah, so basically, Humanist UK are saying it is mandatory and part of the philosophy of humanism that you must be an atheist. It came about by me discussing officiating at weddings, funerals, and equivalent to christenings, naming ceremonies and stuff like that. And Humanism UK trains these people to do these different ceremonies, basically giving them the tools on how to do it, because it's usually for friends and family and stuff like that. If you are a theist in any way, shape or form, that includes Buddhism, Taoism and Jainism, which have no gods, they still can't be an officiant for Humanism UK. Randolph says that there are various laws which stop that in Canada, and there is actually
it's part of our constitution.
There are actual cases in the UK where churches and mosques have been sued for not allowing people not of that faith to hold positions within their church or mosque, including somebody that had been through theological training, wasn't a Christian, but applied to be equivalent of a pastor at church. This person could give all the prayers and spiritual guidance, but he was refused because he wasn't part of that faith.
It's interesting. There's a bit of a parallel. Hi, Erin. There's a bit of a parallel going on in Canada right now, and it's been going on for quite a few years. There's a lady named Greta Vosper I believe she's in Ontario, and the eastern end of the country. We're on the western end in British Columbia here. She's a
the right side of Canada. Well, actually, it's the left side, but
she's a pastor at a church, and she's an atheist. And she does the sermons properly. She does it competently. She doesn't push atheism while she's doing the sermons, and there's people filling up the pews and all this. And the Catholic Church wants her out because she's not a Christian. And they tried, and I believe our courts or one of our tribunals shut them down.
Why is she doing it if she's not?
Well, she was already in that position, I guess, but people need a job, right? So, but she's doing the job competently. She's the people who attend the church like her, and I think by now they probably most, if not all, know that she doesn't believe, but they're still there for the sermons and enjoying it. So she's.
Did you say Catholic?
Huh?
Yes, you did.
She's there for the money. It's like the rest of them.
get a gold-plated Mercedes to drive around?
In Canada, can women be priests?
It's much better than being there for the children, I tell you, when it comes to that.
No, women can't be priests at all.
That's a little below the belt there, Randolph.
Yeah.
That's how the Catholics operate. And, it's such a serious epidemic.
Randolph, I need to pull you up on something.
Sorry.
According to dogma within Catholicism, women can't be priests.
Yeah, and the Catholic Church is not allowed to enforce that here in Canada because the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Section 15, forbids discrimination. Yep. So they can't do that here. The Catholic Church has to comply with our laws. They're not allowed to go around.
Come on, Randolph. God's laws are higher than our laws.
But they just don't have to. They just don't have to put someone in that position, because there are other priests that they can use which are more qualified at the beginning of her career.
Well, whoop-de-doo for the Catholic Church. They don't get to make the rules. They have to comply with our laws. That's the way it is.
I'm just wondering how you'd
have to operate here. So
I'm just wondering how you'd enforce it, because you can say that there is someone more qualified. I mean, there's however many thousands of priests worldwide
Yeah.
that are more qualified. So how do you then
Well, it
enforce
happens here. I don't know how it's happened, but because I haven't looked into it, but it happens here. So what it tells me is the Catholic Church has been complying with our laws by hiring women as well as men in these positions.
Can you still like discriminate if you're like an acting company and you need a woman for a role?
So with that, there is a specific legitimate job requirement that's considered to be reasonable, and
Okay.
that one works okay. So there is the reasonableness portion that is mentioned in our laws. So that would be an example of something that would qualify as reasonable. And then there are areas that are kind of gray areas that people have disputes about, and that's where the courts come in and render their decisions.
Okay.
I would like to just add in that and just marvel at that we live in a time
Great question, by the
where
way.
you can utter the phrase, well, whoopity-doo for the Catholic Church and not fear death.
Oh, I just said
I'm just putting that out there.
You know, I don't fear death itself. I fear the process of dying because I felt it 5 weeks ago. And it's
Mm.
I don't want to feel it again.
No. And then I
Yeah,
felt it
that's-
2 weeks later when Randolph made me laugh for like 3 hours straight.
I apologize for that once again.
You liar. You
No,
liar.
I'm Canadian. You can believe me.
Yeah. No, we don't lie here.
We apologize a lot.
No,
Yeah, but
we might
it's-
apologize for it. There you go.
It's like when you go to California, I don't trust the people because in California, say have a nice day, whilst you can see in their eyes that saying, drop dead cunt. You can see it in their eyes. That's what they mean. It's like when a Canadian says, I'm sorry, it's like, I'm not sorry. Just fuck you.
I'm curious about the laws in
Boot.
UK, where the humanists UK are operating. Do they have restrictions like we have here that say you can't discriminate?
There
Or do
are
you-
discrimination laws. However, religion has a huge get out of jail free card.
Oh,
And this is because,
Because you have a state
just like
religion.
King Henry.
yeah, but so does Canada, technically speaking, because they are
Nope.
part of the
Our
Commonwealth.
charter was brought in the 80s, and it overrules all of that. It's part of our constitution.
That's why I say technically speaking, because there are the get out of jail free cards that Canada uses, but we have head of state is also head of church, and also we have in the House of Lords, which is an unelected house. I think it's 16 bishops. We've got a few imams, we've got a few rabbis, and a few other various religions.
Wow.
So they always basically veto these attempts to get rid of the exemptions.
And so they're very hypersensitive to making sure that human rights legislation doesn't make it all the way in fully into the UK. How wonderful.
Well, this is the thing. There's that, but there's also the EU. And one of the powerhouses in the EU was Vatican.
Yep.
And so anytime that the EU tried to get rid of the exemptions, the Vatican says, hold on, fuck off. Who had huge pull power with Poland, Italy, Spain, and all these other countries which are highly Catholic.
We can tell all those Catholics how to vote.
So I think the way
It's essentially the way
to
that
look
they're playing
at-
it.
perhaps the way to look at what the Humanist UK is doing is that perhaps they're using those same religious exemptions to make the point that this is a problem and this is what's going on, and the unfairness can work in both directions. Maybe that's the battle they're trying to do, I wonder.
That sounds
I
good.
would agree with that if they actually did anything with it. They just use it but not highlight it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no.
So
patience.
you've got
You
yeah,
you
so you've
make
got
a
a
point.
national-
You plant a seed and you have patience.
well,
that gets shit done.
Yeah, I mean there is that option, but the National Secular Society actually
What can you look for?
what was I saying? National Secular Society. They are actually pushing to have reform in the House of Lords, just purely and simply because there are so many unelected religious people making the laws for the rest of us. They have made some headway because there are some subjects that these particular lords aren't allowed to vote on anymore, and this includes reproductive health. So as soon as that restriction was put in, abortion was then legalized. The pill was available free on the NHS, whereas before it was the prescription price of however many pounds and pence it was. So because these restrictions have been put in place with the help of National Secular Society, it's working.
I want to see the abortion rates surrounding that date.
They initially went down, they initially went up according to official records, but that's because there were so few actually recorded beforehand.
Yeah.
But what actually dropped significantly shortly afterwards was the accidents in the home, admissions to hospital. Exactly.
I fell down the stairs, or I got...
Yeah, exactly. Or I went round to this ex-doctor's house and fell down his stairs.
Oh.
So, you know.
Conveniently fell down his stairs.
Yeah.
Erin,
Hi.
hello.
Hi.
No, because I got an infographic and I double checked it, and it's correct that we've had 2 Democrat presidents since Carter left office, and that's Clinton and Obama. Mm-hmm. And they have, during their terms, we have experienced the largest drop in number of abortions percentage-wise during their terms. And that's, if you look at their policy decisions, it's about education, contraception, expansion of healthcare. The 3 things that are pro-life policies that Republicans ignore for obvious reasons, because
I don't think they ignore it.
They ignore it because that's not a power position you can hold.
Oh, I see what you mean from that respect. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not a power position over women that you can hold, is giving them education, free healthcare, and free contraceptive. That's you know.
So Erin,
we give them education, right?
So Erin, you said hello. How are you?
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Sorry, you walked into the middle of a.
That's okay. It's fascinating, and I love this topic.
I tell you what, it's amazing that 5 white blokes are talking about contraception and abortion, and the one person that it really affects.
Yeah.
Maybe we should ask Erin's opinion.
My opinion?
Actually, that's a good question. What is your feeling on the whole, the pro-life and the anti-abortion and the personal bodily autonomy, all that? Like, what's your take on that?
My take so far has, I definitely like the education, like what you had mentioned, education and I don't know. I grew up in there was no education given around it, what other options, and like how to have safe sex. So I know that like a lot of, I even know people in my own life that like in the Christian, like they don't know about it. They haven't been given the education about it. So they end up in a lot more emergency type situations. And I feel like that is the cause of a lot of abortions. So like I feel like I of course I have my own kids. I think that it's important to like consider all of that, but ultimately, like if you don't educate women and you don't educate young men about how to have safe sex, they're going to end up in situations where they don't have the proper, like they don't have safeguards around it, so they don't know how to have safe sex, and they end up in these emergency situations where they have to, they need that situation, and I don't. And coming from my own personal situation where like pregnancy for me almost killed me twice. I have 2 kids. And both times I ended up in the hospital. I was in the hospital for 3 months with my son. And like pregnancy is not always safe. So when I hear people pushing for like pro-life, I really do hear like that pro-birth,
exactly, because they don't, once the kid's born, they don't care anymore.
They don't care about the safety and the health of the mother, or even like the safety or the health of the child after it's born. So I I feel like my position is kind of pro-education and obviously like I can't quite word it right.
Pro-freedom of choice?
Pro-education, pro-freedom of choice, and obviously the sentient being that has the most effect it has on them, that they should be able to make that decision. So even though I have kids and I understand the the way that most Christians view it as like just so precious from the very beginning, but I also can see it as a situation where being like a young woman who is not in the position where she's ready to have children, she should be able to make that decision without.
So, I agree with you, and I've been a proponent for as long as I can remember of freedom of bodily autonomy.
Yeah.
So freedom of choice to me means it's freedom because the decision does not even need to be justified to anybody.
No.
As soon as there's a requirement to justify it, which is what a lot of the U.S. Christians seem to be calling for in news last 10 years ago or so, is that's just putting pressure on and taking the freedom away.
Yeah. That's
what they want to do. We can't even go there. It's got to be a choice, because as soon as this freedom is taken away, it amounts to slavery, because in effect they'd be taking away the rights of pregnant people to make a choice about their own bodies, and it's forced birth, right? So why should these people be not have the same rights as everybody else? It puts them as a lower class. It
does, and like I have a particularly, like, it hits quite close to home for me, because my mom was raised in like a very fundamentalist Presbyterian kind of background, and she actually did become pregnant at 20. I think she was 20 or 21, and my grandparents actually forced her to move to. I didn't tell you this, Neil, during our interview, but they forced her to move away for that 9 months, and they forced her to give birth to my older half brother, and she gave him up for adoption. And there's like very little,
exactly my story.
Yes, and she didn't have any options in that. She got pregnant, and she absolutely had to follow through with the pregnancy, and she gave him up for adoption, and like as if that was a good choice, and that wouldn't affect her. But even that decision has affected her so greatly throughout her life. She was traumatized. She was very traumatized by that whole situation, and I know it's because she wasn't given she didn't think she had any choice in the matter, and I see the effect of that too, and I feel I've met my half brother now. I reconnected with him when I was 14 or so. He's a great guy, but I just look at how it affected my mom, and they being a part of that circle, and being a part of, even my own mom, she's a proponent for pro-life, and she's like, you can have the baby, you can give it up for adoption, and that's the best thing to do. But I see the pain that it caused my mom, and I've seen the pain that it caused my half brother, even because his adoption process was traumatic as well. And
I got lucky.
Yeah, he ended up in a good scenario, but like I just look back on that, and I see how it would have affected her life. She's in her 60s now, and it still affects her life, and she had no choice in the matter, because it's really.
And on the grand scheme of things, I think we're finding out that choice itself doesn't actually contribute to the total number of choices made.
Yeah.
And that education and healthcare are actually the ones contributing.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. If you've got the education from a young age, young people know the options. It's like you've got birth control, but that's not 100%. And then when it does come past the point of the morning after pill, you then have abortion or adoption as your two options, or actually raising the child yourself. The education that you have 3 options minimum from there, it can do wonders for someone's health. The fact that if it's the person's choice not to have the abortion, it is then their choice whether to have adoption or raise them. And the fact that they have taken that choice and it's not been forced upon them, it would have saved Erin's mother so much pain and heartache.
Yeah.
Right.
But just going to education a second, Texas has abstinence-only education. That's all I have. And then I think it's Colorado, which has a much more comprehensive education, but still slightly lacking for a developed nation.
Don't forget, weed is also legal in Colorado. So
Well, yeah, but the abortion rate is much lower in
Yes.
Colorado, if I have the right state,
Yes,
than it is in Texas.
they need to educate these young people on how to avoid that situation altogether.
Yeah, there's one in
And
four
abstinence doesn't
Texas.
work.
1 in 4 Texan 15-year-olds don't
try
know
to
how
tell
to
me
use a
not
condom.
to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know until
Yeah, me neither.
fucking 18. I think I was shown how to. Well, of course, I wasn't using them before that, but I didn't really find out about it all. I
No,
knew
you're a late bloomer.
The only
No.
education I ever received was just don't do it. So
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I was a little bit extreme with my brainwashing growing up, but like I didn't, because I was terrified of the spiritual consequences of it. But I know that like I have friends of mine who are like growing up with abstinence only, and they wound up pregnant at like 16 and 17 or whatever, because they found themselves in that situation and they didn't have they didn't know how to proceed. They didn't know. They literally didn't know.
I don't mean to be a stick in the mud, but according to the Guttmacher Institute, Colorado has more abortions than Texas.
Really?
I may have the wrong state. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, and that's according to...
It's
could be
colder
California.
there. People are inside more.
Yeah.
Well, weed can make you horny, so.
So I have kids, and I'm planning on teaching them about like safe sex and harm reduction. That's my plan.
Yeah.
How old are your kids?
8.5 and 4 almost.
Okay.
But I have my oldest is a daughter, and so it's already come up a little bit about that kind of thing, and I'm going ahead with this. I plan to teach her about sex and how to have safe sex and about harm reduction, and because I think it's just I see the results in that, and I see how much healthier that is, and that's my plan.
My oldest is the same as your youngest. He turns 4 next Friday.
Yeah.
And so we're in the good versus bad secret stage.
Yeah.
Teaching, about consent.
Yeah.
Trying to,
Yep.
And that's one of those sex ed things that people don't think about a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
When like, okay, I get people all the time. They're like, oh, in kindergarten, what are you going to teach them? That they can say no to somebody touching them.
Yeah, a friend of mine who was actually abused when they were a child actually says, have you taught them the 4 X's yet?
What's that?
Like, well, what's the 4 X's? Says, no, crotch, backside. And if you don't want to be touched any of them places, you don't have to be. And that is the simplest thing I have ever heard and taught my children.
Yeah.
I bought my daughter like this it was like a graphic novel, and it's set for kids that age, and it's awesome, and it's all about consent, and it talks about it even like, so she's in grade 2, she's going into grade 3, even talking about how that's applicable even at her age, because at this age it's a lot of like hugging and it starts to get to a little bit to like kisses and that sort of thing. So I'm just like I'm trying to give her this information before it happens, even though, because even in my upbringing, like it wasn't talked about. No. It just absolutely, consent was something I hadn't even heard about until I was probably 20, 24, 25. So there was quite a few situations in my teenage years where I didn't know that I could just say no. Thankfully, I never had anything that was like too much, but that whole idea that bodily autonomy was not taught to me. So I plan on doing something different with my kids, 100%.
I don't have any kids that I know of, at least.
Father's Day is in 2 weeks, so if you get any cards in the mail, or in a week.
Well, when I was briefly married, I think the coolest thing ever, when I was briefly married and her kids at school, made me little picture frames and painted them with like nuts and bolts and stuff on them, glued to them, and painted blue and green and stuff like that. And they both made me one at their school for Father's Day, which is actually it's kind of touching. Yeah, I thought
I'm gonna send you a damn card now.
I still. You're not my kitty. You're not.
Hey, my brother.
Yeah, I was.
My brother.
1980.
Yeah. My half brother that my mom ended up giving up for adoption. She didn't tell the dad, so he said he did have to send that message to his birth dad that like, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
That was another thing to
Must have blew his mind.
Yeah. You know what? We were really fortunate in the way that it worked out. Like when my mom told us about him and when we met him, like he just became part of our family. He's amazing. I adore him, but he didn't get the same response from his dad. But he was very fortunate that he was adopted into a really loving family, and they really did do a good job with him. They took care of him really well, so it turned out okay. But still, it could have been avoided.
Nakasuchi's going to be on the Modern Day Debate tomorrow. Going up prep for James. Yeah, that should be cool. My brother from another mother. I have too many brothers from other mothers. Wait a minute. Here.
I have brothers from another father.
My best friend's dad one day called him a bastard, and everybody looked at him like, wait a minute, is there something you're not telling us?
Would you find the kid in a dumpster?
What, is it a prom night?
A prom night accident? Hey, I was an accident, right? I was conceived in the back of a 57 Chevy, apparently. And
my wife was an oops baby when they were 17.
My dad was 17, my mom was 16 at the time. Of course, coming from my dad's mom was staunch Catholic, so having my Canadian soul twin. There you go.
Have you reconnected with your
Yes, absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah, back in 2000, I got a phone call.
Yeah,
I just got home from work, long day. Back then, I was doing restoration. So I was hauling around fucking 15-foot drywall boards, 5/8, not the half-inch. So they're heavy, and we were on pneumatic stilts, putting them up on ceilings and nailing them up there. And I was home, and I was tired, and I just got out of the shower, and I got the towel wrapped around my fucking waist, nothing else on except a smile, and the phone's fucking ringing. And I'm running to the phone, and the towel's falling off. My roommate's going, please adjust that. Thank you. I get to the phone, and I pick up the phone, and it's my sister.
No, I'm your father. No.
I will mute your ass. Hello, is this Neil? Yes. Neil Bernstein? And right away, I'm like, shit, bill collectors. Just
fuck out the weed, it's not legal yet.
Yeah. Oh, didn't matter back then. And she's like, Neil Bernstein. I'm like, yeah. I don't know how to tell you this. I'm like, you could just say it. She goes, I'm your sister. And the second she said, I'm your sister, my knees gave out. Because I have known that I was adopted since I was 7. My folks told us. My sister and myself. And my sister had already reconnected with her family, which is kind of cool. But it didn't work out that well. But anyway, so I was like, you don't sound like my sister. Because I grew up with one, right? She goes, no, I'm your biological sister. And I was like, holy fuck. This is actually happening. And I was talking to her, and then she said, oh, and by the way, your other sister is here. Like, wow. Oh, geez. It's like, so I got 3 sisters now? I feel so outnumbered. But yeah, so I spoke to them, and then and your biological mom is here as well. So I got to think. Then about 2 weeks later, we met up. They came and grabbed me from where I lived. I lived in Ladner at the time, so they came and grabbed me there, and we went out to Boston Pizza, and they're all staring at me like, "Oh yeah, I can see some."
It is so weird.
Yeah,
it is so weird meeting a half sibling or something later on in life. It is bizarre.
because my folks got married.
Oh wow! What?
So they're full-blooded sisters. Yeah, as soon as they had me, and of course, putting up for adoption, my grandmother didn't even know I existed until I met her. Okay, and that was my dad's mom. And then Deanna came along. My sister was a year younger than me. They figured, okay, well, we're fated, so they got married, and then they tried again to have kids. My mom miscarried 3 times, and then finally Trina was born, and she said, "Why'd you guys call me Trina?" And she goes, "Well, you were born in a tree." So, and she believed that for years. Unfortunately, in 2016, she was killed in a motorcycle accident.
Oh, sorry.
Up in the Okanagan. But I was lucky enough to have gotten to know her. So,
15 years, there's going to be a conversation like, "Hey, Dad, why is my sister called Paris? Why is her name Paris?" "Well, she was conceived in Paris." "Thanks, Dad. No problem. Quarantine."
That's funny. Well,
How long you been sitting on that one, Irish?
A long time. Since I heard it in the hospital.
Should I say something? My daughter, her name would be Hot Tub. I do see in the comments somebody wrote like any advice to make a dent in the thinking of a Pentecostal friend. And I did want to talk to that for a minute or speak to that for a minute.
Sure. I believe you're referring to Beach's question.
Beach Price. Yeah. I think that one of depending on what, if I know Pentecostals, I know that gifts of the Holy Spirit's a big thing, and speaking in tongues was a huge thing for me growing up, and they really do believe that speaking in tongues is some sort of proof of supernatural and that sort of thought. So I think that going down that kind of the idea that glossolalia, so what's the actual psychological phenomenon that happens when people speak in tongues, and talking about that made a huge impact on me, because that was for me glossolalia. And it's a psychological phenomenon that happens all across the world. And even I found, actually, this was very recently, I found a video very recently of do you know Terrence McKenna?
Mm-hmm.
The DMT guy, the mushrooms guy. He even has a video about him. He has a video online of him speaking in tongues in a state of euphoria while he's doing mushrooms. And so to somehow take that thing and knock it down a notch, thinking that it could actually just be something that happens to our brain when we're in a hyper, a state of elation, and it's a thing that actually happens in our brain that happens all across the world. It's not unique to Christianity and not unique to Pentecostalism.
No, it's the human brain.
It's definitely they've done even MRI scans on people who are speaking in tongues, and it's very similar to the brain states that Buddhist monks and otherwise are doing when they're in a very relaxed, calm state, and it's just kind of this urge that comes across you. And for me, that was a huge part of deconstructing from Pentecostalism, which was a good gateway for me to kind of get into the rest of my deconstruction. Those things. And then the other thing that I found really helpful was learning about things like cold reading, because prophecy, they called it word of wisdom, or something along that lines. That's a big thing in Pentecostalism too, is speaking these prophetic words over people. Learning, Holy Kool-Aid has a really good video about this. Learning about how people cold read, and when I looked through that and I saw the similarities between cold reading with psychic mediums and that sort, and even Darren Brown, who's a mentalist, he has a video called Miracles. I think it's on Netflix. That was huge for me for breaking through my Pentecostalism, because he shows how these things are also psychological phenomenon, and anyone can be trained to cold read, which is essentially the same thing as prophesying. So that's my advice for maybe breaking through that bubble of Pentecostalism.
Yeah, there was a TV program in the UK. It was 3 former convicts, I think there were, who showed how you can get easily tricked out of your own money and stuff like that.
Yep.
And they did the cold reading and showed how it was done. So slight reactions in the face, or you blink more than you normally do, it gives you a hint of how close you are to the truth.
Yeah.
And it's, but saying about the multiple faiths, the Buddhist monks, they get into this kind of trance state, and then they start doing the talking in tongues. There's a Hindu guru that does the same and actually swindles loads of money out of money they don't really have. Obviously in India, in the shanty towns, if you will. I don't know what they're actually called. Just by not pretending, but by doing this talking in tongues, it's emotive enough to other people to believe that they are talking to the gods.
Yes.
When you've got so many gods to talk to, it's you need help.
I have journal excerpts from when I had learned to speak in, like when I had started speaking in tongues, and then also what the theology or was taught at the sermon around that whole week that started. And it was like speaking in tongues was proof of it. It was proof.
I want to try doing this. I think we should all smoke some dope and then try speaking in tongues.
Well, you've already got a head start on us, Neil. Come on, that's not fair.
I know. I just ate a couple of gummies. I get it.
I did.
But if you want another person, if you want another person that's got a good series that incorporates talking in tongues, there's the Godless Iowan, his deconversion story on his channel.
Yeah.
It's about 10 episodes. Yeah, it's about 10 episodes long of about 10 minutes a piece. And he goes about
it's very good,
his talking in tongues. Yeah.
It's very good. He was a pastor.
He's very block happy.
Yeah, we're a pastor, yeah.
I am an atheist now, and I can still speak in tongues. So what does that say?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, he still does on his channel occasionally if you get him to go in. Yeah,
I've seen him do that. He hates me now for whatever reason, but no, there's a whole story behind that. But anyways, we're not going to get into that. I'll talk to you about it another time, Aaron. But anyways, he's I see on his channel he does it. I think in a few videos he does that.
I think I saw that.
In tongues, which is hysterical.
I feel like that was a big moment for me when I was looking back last year when looking at speaking in tongues, and then it was a video. It was like, I'm an atheist and I can speak in tongues, and I watching that, like those things really do cause a lot of discomfort in your mind as like a Pentecostal or like charismatic Christian. You're like that. And the only other thing you can do to explain it is like, oh, it's demonic. That's their go-to. That's their next explanation is that like it's of
so
course
demons can speak in tongues too?
Apparently, that's like the number one thing that especially like in my background, that's the number one thing they would say to explain the other things going on in other cultures. And so then the big question is like, well, then how do you know the difference? And they don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
Nope.
How do you go about testing whether it's from God or from the devil? And then they don't have an answer for that.
I have
you record it
all the time.
And then you say, I didn't get that. Could you repeat that? And then you see if it's the same thing.
Well, I this is what gets me about certain particular theists. SJ is an example of it. She will say some parts of the Bible are literal, some parts are allegory. It's like, okay, which bit's which?
Which is which, yeah.
And she'll tell me, and she'll be nice. She'll give me an explanation. This is allegory. This is literal. How do you know that?
Yeah. What was your test that you did there? Yeah.
Well, one part, she actually made me laugh. She says, well, we've seen pictures of space. We know we're not on pillars and all the rest of it. And she made a laugh of it. But other people saying, hold on a second. I'm a theist. I believe this same thing. How can you be sure? And she changed the subject, and I think she actually deleted the thread. Yeah. So,
you know what's really crazy is that like I like I had mentioned in my interview just an hour ago with Neil, is like I didn't realize I was a fundamentalist because I grew up in my Christian faith, and I even like kind of went around different denominations. But I also loved science, and I loved I did really great in biology. I wanted to go into nursing for a long time, and part of me was like evolution's really cool, and obviously there's some evidence for it. And then like young Earth creationism is over here. And I really do believe I held both those beliefs in my brain for a good 10 years. And I just kept them separate because I couldn't bring them together. And this is kind of this
There's
part.
a lot of people that do that though.
And I didn't realize I was doing that. And so like when I was reading scientific stuff, I was like, oh man, that is so cool. But then it's like I just shut that part of my brain off while I was at church, and we talked about original sin, and we talked about Jesus, the atonement and the justification, through the atonement of Jesus, and like somehow those things just didn't collide until last year for me, and when it did, it was crazy.
That's very darling. When I was in church, there was no you can sit there and look at like evolution, and be like, oh yeah, that's pretty interesting. It was evolution's from the devil.
Oh yeah, clearly.
Yeah. Well,
evolution is the devil's talk.
The guy that led the research on DNA was an old Earth creationist.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can never remember his name.
Yeah.
He's an old Earth creationist, and he truly believed evolution proved his theory.
Yes.
Or his hypothesis, I should say.
Yep. And I tried really hard to grab onto that. Like when I felt like I was losing my faith, I tried really hard to be like, okay, I know that there's Christians that accept evolution, and they, progressive liberal type Christians too that accept a different type. And I went there and I still saw the holes in it. And for me, it was like they hold on to this idea that like Jesus and the love of God and all that. But I feel like that all breaks apart when you get to textual criticism, because when it's like they hold on to these ideas that Jesus said this and said that, but then when you look at the textual criticism, you can't be sure what Jesus ever said if he existed, and that it broke apart.
Which, if you're going down the mythicist route, godless engineer, all the way, he's really good.
He is really
but
good.
just to grab on a page a second. Sorry,
Watson rings a bell for some reason. The DNA guy, James Watson, I think was his name. Walters, something like that. James Walters. I can't remember.
I forget. I can never remember his name. But just what B just said there. You got a friend to accept evolution, but still thinks humans are part of it. Well, just ask him who in the Bible is the first person to lie.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first person to lie is Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Yep.
Yeah.
The first person to tell the truth is Lucifer.
The serpent. Well,
the serpent. Yeah.
So, Erin,
which is the manifestation of Lucifer.
Yes. Did you see the questions from Atheist Morph?
Yeah, I did, and I did. I spoke to Seth Andrews 2 weeks ago, and our interview is coming out on the 16th. And yes, I will talk to you. I will also have a time for you, Atheist Morph.
Morph's awesome. I had him on the show recently.
I really struggle with scheduling because I've got like my 2 kids, and so I have to like schedule it all out with like making sure my husband's home so my kids aren't up in my grill.
Just tie them down and gag them.
Yeah. He and I were talking about scheduling last night, and it was the same thing. I'm like, well, my kids go to bed at this time, and he's like, oh yeah.
I know if it wasn't for my kids, I would be like online. I'd be like online doing activism stuff and starting my own channel or something like that. But like I keep thinking like I'll wait till my kids are in school, and then COVID. So I don't know what's happening right now, but
fucking COVID is the excuse for everything.
But no, I really can't stream with my kids. I can't even FaceTime my mom.
Jesus fucking Russ.
Oh, are we introducing dogs?
Well, Russ is going nuts in the background. Either cook that thing or shut it. Still too raw, pal.
Cavalier King Charles. Nice.
Oh. This is my pup.
What's she called?
Maggie.
Maggie.
I inherited her from my husband's grandma. She passed away last year, so we've had her for about 8 months now. She's a sweetheart.
I was going to say she looks like she'll be nice with some roast potatoes, green beans, and...
Sorry about that, guys.
That's all right. I was
I
just
had
saying
just gotten back.
your dinner sounded a little undercooked there.
Yeah, I just got back from my sister's birthday party, and he went crazy because I just walked in, and he's like, "Where have you been?"
This is COVID lockdown. Where have you been, young man?
It's pretty much what he's saying to me. It's more like,
you
why
socially
haven't you been
distance?
here to?
I
socially
smell
distanced
another
from
dog
my
on
dog. Oh no,
Yeah.
there was no other dogs over there.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, he was just like, "Where have you been? I wanted attention from you." That's about it.
Too bad, Poochie.
Let's see here. What is her name? Erin?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I should tell you my first interactions with Pentecostals.
Oh, please
Because
do.
you see, I grew up in a Baptist church.
Yep.
And so, over there, of course, nobody speaks in tongues and all that other stuff. But so my very first interaction at a Pentecostal church was my aunt took me over there with her because she was going to the service. So I went. And, they sang and did all their stuff, whatnot. And right before the sermon, some lady steps up and she just starts hollering and saying all these different things. And I just had the widest eyes looking over her like, what the fuck's wrong with her?
Yeah.
And then I just was like, I don't know what's going on. Should we get an ambulance? What is it?
Brooks, I say that every time I go into a church. Never mind when they're speaking in tongues.
Yeah. It was a word of knowledge or a word of wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah. And then somebody completely different steps up and interprets it. And I was like,
Oh, so you
what?
somebody come up and speak in tongues and then interpret it.
Well, yeah, because
somebody
the Bible
interpreted
says
it.
says that if there's no interpreter, you have to like hide them away.
Yes, and that was a big point that I used to argue with Baptist kids I was trying to witness to. I was like, no. The Holy Spirit gives you this angel language that helps you connect with the Spirit, and like that's like a personal thing. And sometimes it's interpreted to be edifying to the congregation or something. But no, like in my church, it was like all over. Like people were speaking in tongues like constantly. So. And I want to know one other strange thing that I noticed was that like in my congregation, everybody's like, well, not everybody, but pretty well, there was like almost a dialect of tongues that would happen at my church. And when I would travel to someone else,
yeah, it's like the baby talk of what's his face.
There was in my church it was a lot of like shush, like a lot of that syllable came out. And then like when I was on that missions team and we went to other churches and I would hear other churches speaking it, like their congregation speaking in tongues, it would actually sound different and they had like their own dialect. And I remember making like a mental note of that when I was like 18 or 19, and I'm like, that's interesting. And then during my deconstruction, I really, really like thought about this, and I was like, my tongues sounds just like my mom's, like almost identical. I'm like,
weird.
I watch
it's almost like it's a learned behavior.
I subscribe to the Scathing Atheist podcast. I think it was Scathing Atheist that we're on.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
And they were doing a review of someone that gave a message out speaking in tongues. However, they did speaking in tongues in 6 languages. These were Latin American, Latino, Spanish, Portuguese, an Indian language, and a Middle Eastern language. And I'm pretty sure at least 3 of them are exactly the same.
Yeah.
Which Indian language and which Middle Eastern language? Because there's probably hundreds of them there.
Well, different dialects.
Well, for if you mean Central American Spanish versus that, there are some pretty significant differences between them.
Yeah, but if you're doing Central America and Latino, they are the same. Well, then when you go to Spanish and Portuguese, they are going to be very similar to the Latino.
But
And-
if you go to Mexico and then to Argentina, there's going to be some pretty significant differences.
Oh, yeah.
between the two.
What can be a compliment in like Mexico's dialect of Spanish can be a complete and utter insult in like Argentina.
But this still negates the problem of Latino and Central American or South American, whatever it was, being just one language, because you could have Argentina and Brazil, which are slightly different, which are
Brazil is
completely
Portuguese.
different. Yeah, sorry, bad examples. Mexico and Argentina is so even if you do narrow it down to an area, you still got different languages within each country. You go to Brazil and Portugal, you still have similar issues. One is a more official, like English and Queen's English, for example. There's still significant differences. And then when you go to India, there's 7, I think it is, official languages. Middle East, you've got anything ranging from Hebrew to Pashto to Arabic and all these others. So
Aramaic.
it was just Aramaic, yeah. So you just got basically this person spouting
Persian,
gibberish
Farsi.
and saying it's So you got this person shouting gibberish and saying it's 6 different languages, which just isn't the case.
Look, all I know is like you can get several different dialects of English here in America. Texas English is not the same as
I could meld Swedish, French, and English together when I moved back from France and was near fluent in the 3 languages. You could, if you knew what you're doing and planned ahead, you could kind of. But
Actually,
again,
you know what?
That's not speaking in tongues. That's
French is another language where they speak it has different dialects. Because Quebecois French, Parisian French, and Acadian French, like down in Louisiana, they're all different.
Yeah.
The thing is, France is a relatively new country as we know it today. So there are different languages. Well, yeah.
We're not even
Italy's another example. It was something like 20 feudal states until 100 years ago.
Erin, what are you holding up?
This is my journal from
1789.
the time that this is when I got the gift of speaking in tongues, and also some of the theology behind speaking in tongues that was taught at my church.
Well,
I would love to compare notes about that compared to what I learned in pre-seminary, because we talked about that. I studied to be a minister when I was an undergrad, and so we learned all about why that gift was taken away during biblical times and all that.
Yeah.
Because if you get into the letters written, you get into some of the later letters written, the miracles have already stopped.
Yeah.
And so have the prophecy, so has, the speaking in tongues, so has everything else. And you get into like Paul telling Timothy, hey, I heard you had some stomach troubles. Please take some fortified wine. Yeah. Take some wine with your meal to solve that, rather than a miracle to heal.
I remember a big part of my deconstruction was like looking at so some of the mythicism stuff with like the Bacchae, is that what it's called? So the Dionysus mystery cults and what they were kind of doing, and I was like, well, everything that I seem to have read about like the Dionysus cult and like the prophecies and the ecstatic kind of worship, I'm like that was Pentecostalism. That's exactly what I was involved in.
Yeah.
Enough with the pineapple on the pizza, atheist morph. Jesus.
I love pineapple on pizza.
Right?
You're just wrong.
Aaron, I was starting to like you.
Too.
You are starting to like
I was starting to like you until you said that. So
I love pineapple.
I'm sorry,
on my pizza
but
too.
We're gonna have to cancel you.
We expect that from you.
I stand by my decision.
See, I've had pizza with not just pineapple on it, but strawberries on it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just because you're a stoner. You've
No,
constantly got
it's
the mushroom.
It's delicious.
I would try it. I would try it before I knocked it. Yeah.
See, instead of just Canadian bacon, I also put other like salty meats on there because you gotta balance out that sweet.
Bacon is in the States.
Yeah,
you guys You guys just put ham
Look.
on your pizza. That's not Canadian bacon.
Look, here in Texas, we put whatever kind of meat you want on it. It doesn't matter.
No.
You can have meat and pineapple. I
Have
don't
you
know
guys
if you know
been-
that.
No.
Have you guys been to
No.
Italy?
A salty.
You never-
No,
it
I
has to
haven't.
be a
You never cook
salty
the
meat.
fucking
with
ham
pineapple.
and put pineapple on the
Yes.
ham when you bake it?
Yes, you can do
No.
that, but you cannot put
Right.
it on
No.
pizza.
You can't put ham and pineapple on a pizza.
Pineapple needs to be
your
dumped in the
oven-baked
Marianas
pineapple
Trench and
ham
left there.
on a pizza with some tomato sauce.
No, pineapple needs dumped in
is
the
wrong with you?
Marianas Trench and leaving there. I'm
No,
not
no.
firing off into the fucking sun.
Okay.
No, pineapple needs to be shoved up the orangutan Oval Office inhabitants.
I feel
Oh,
offended.
I can get
Green,
on board
green
with
ant
that.
first.
I love a good grilled pineapple and a good grilled like avocado. Lots of fruits are really good grilled.
Oh yeah,
Avocado is great
Yeah.
in the smoker because it's got enough natural fats that it absorbs.
My
Yes.
husband, we just got a smoker, so we're experimenting with it right now.
Which one did you get? Rectech or Traeger?
Weed.
He got that. Oh geez, I don't know. It's like a barbecue size one.
Yeah. I
It's
got a
like-
big old Rectech, and yeah, it's awesome. You'll
Yeah, because I bought him last year. I bought him a big chief for smoking fish because he's getting into fishing, and then this year he bought this
I
smoker.
definitely am coming to your place there.
He's
is
like,
it big?
You're close. Come on
Is it
over.
logs or is it pellets?
Pellets.
Yeah.
It's
So it's probably
pellets.
Traeger or Rectech.
I can't remember, but because we've only had it for a couple weeks, but it's bigger than our barbecue. So he's been like throwing stuff on there. He actually just put something on tonight. I haven't tried it yet.
Well, something that you need to do, you need to get a honey mustard glaze,
Yes.
put it on the children and put it on the smoker.
Yes,
So child
being an
sacrifice?
atheist. Well, it's because you eat babies.
Yeah.
That's
We're atheists. We eat
Yeah,
babies.
that is true. Yeah.
Yeah, we got one on the spit right now out in the park. I'm just gonna go out there and have
Taking
having
a
a little-
slice
See,
off.
it was a bit sad because
Russell
my
chose
sister.
pizza. Somebody wrote.
I
It's good with feta.
I couldn't have a baby tonight because I went over to my sister's to eat, and a lot of them are religious-ish, so
It's all right, you've got a
they
dog.
don't eat babies.
Yeah.
Well, no, I keep the dog because he's okay for companion-ish.
Oh, is it a hunting dog to chase down all these babies so you can eat them?
Well,
Yeah.
I've been trying to teach him to do that, but he
Because
just
you really
doesn't-
need to chase
he
down
doesn't do it.
baby.
Or Alex Jones is his neighbor. And
He's
it's for
American,
protection.
of course he does.
What do they got? A
Look,
454?
No. It's
Ford?
not. It's not about being American. It's the fact that I'm Texan, so of course I have to hunt down babies.
Yeah,
Texans hunt down babies.
yeah.
Texans
Oh,
hunt down
Texans.
everything.
No,
Of course.
Texans are actually quite disgusting. They do is it a rattlesnake whack or whatever they call it. Every year they go out and there's a thing in South Texas where they go out and
You're talking about yeah, where they go out and beat them. Yeah.
Don't they do that in Ireland?
I don't even know what to say about this one.
Let me see.
Don Abed, are you Welsh?
Hey, whoa,
Best
whoa,
thing
whoa,
to come
whoa!
out
I'm
of a
border
goat's
Welsh.
mouth.
That's your problem, not mine.
You know the Welsh can't. They don't allow the Welsh to play Scrabble.
Hey, hello.
All right, we got more representation even further out on the globe now.
And still part of the Commonwealth.
Am
That's right.
I here?
Yeah,
No.
well,
Right here.
Hi, Ozzy.
this is all an illusion.
Yeah. I'm not really here. Nothing to see here.
Well, it's because you're Australian. We all know Australia doesn't exist.
That's New Zealand.
I've just got a question. How are you doing that? How have you inverted the camera to make you look right way around? Shouldn't you be upside down?
Yeah. Well, he's strapped in.
Oh, I see.
Well, they put the camera
There.
the same way that they're faced.
There we go.
There we go. That's all right. That's right now.
Terry, that's
Oh.
fucking genius. Now it's all right. Now we need to see his little upside down not your witness walking
See,
by.
I was going to say all we need now is Neil to be upside down so his hair's like this. You know.
where I live, we're not on the upside down part of the planet.
That's why I say you need to go to Australia. I did say that.
Oh, I totally missed that part because I'm dumb. So
I thought you were going to have like a good reason.
Although you joke, but I can kind of see Neil
showed up here, so that's pretty cool. Atheist Roundtable, Erin, that's another actually their show and the Daily Atheist with Chris. There's another couple of shows that you should probably make an appearance on. I'll get you in touch with these guys.
Neither one of them have asked me if I'd come on.
I'm not surprised.
Russ.
But that's not surprising because nobody wants me on.
No,
Yeah.
bullshit.
Oh, boo-hoo.
Connect us. I'll go on there for sure.
All right. Russ, all you got to do is go talk to them. They'll for sure have
Oh, that's my issue because I don't talk to people.
I just wrote some really inflammatory comments about like God, and then I got a following on Twitter, and now people are asking me to come on things.
Well, it was your name that gave it like X. Oh, there's a candidate for the conversion.
I didn't even know if anybody was going to get that, but I'm really.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
especially in the Twitterverse.
Yeah.
If you're not following Florida Line, you have to now because
I am. Yes, he was one of the, or is it? I don't even know who it is, but
It's a she.
It's a she.
She was like one of the first people to like retweet something I wrote, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah, Florida Line.
when you
no.
zing SJ, she'll
Yes,
she'll
I
promote you.
SJ follows me, and he thinks I'm nice, so
Follows me
I've been
too.
like nurturing this kind of respectful relationship. But I challenge her sometimes. For
Oh,
sure.
That could be
she'll
the issue. See, SJ, I've always sat there and commented on things SJ has posted and whatnot, and she never seems to have a response from me. Ever.
Yeah.
That with me too, dude. Don't
Well,
worry about it.
I stumped
blocked me for a
SJ with the what is heaven if your children don't make it question,
Yeah.
and she wouldn't answer that. And I went, nice try, or you didn't answer my question, try again. And Florida Line retweeted that, and I was like, I've made it.
Yay!
No, that's not quite true. You've only made it when you've been blocked from SJ, and then she re-unblocks you.
Twice.
That's been me.
My first block on Twitter was by the Transform wife, so I was proud of that.
Oh, that's a good one to have.
Yeah.
Lori
I
fucking-
was-
fucking.
I was blocked by Pastor Greg Locke.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Me
I
too.
have been too. Yeah.
I did
who's
it
that
because
one that's
I
a
got-
former cop.
What?
It's not Habermas, is it? No,
No.
he's a former police officer, detective.
Oh, you're
Oh,
talking about
The cold
Least
case
trouble.
guy.
Jay Warner
Yeah, Jay
Wallace.
Warner.
Yeah, Jay
Wallace,
Warner.
yeah.
I think
That
he blocked
prick
me too.
Blocked me. Yeah, that prick blocked me because I brought up the problem of evil, and he didn't like it.
Both
Yeah.
them blocked.
I struggle with the most, and I had to actually unfollow him, but he keeps showing up still. Is Randall Rouser? He's
Oh yeah.
So I find like I have no problem going like head to head with like fundamentalists, but I feel like I in a strange twist, I feel like I get the most pushback from like people who are progressive or universalists or annihilationists. They are the ones who push back the hardest on my posts.
Mike,
And,
when you're on my show, you'll have to do that.
Oh, Mike Winger and I got into it one time on Twitter as well, but
Mike Winger.
Oh,
Didn't he used to play? Oh no, that's Kip Winger that used to play for Alice Cooper.
oh sorry.
yeah, no. No,
but
Mike Winger's another apologist.
I feel like that's the next thing that atheists need to tackle online with like the online YouTube sphere is that they need to tackle these progressive type Christianity, because I feel like that's like when you leave fundamentalism that you're either gonna like go like get out completely or you're gonna get trapped in this weird wishy-washy version of like progressive Christianity and liberal Christianity and I feel like
How many people? I'm
almost
curious
went
as to how many people like actually like stop in the baby pool rather than just get out.
I didn't.
Quite a lot.
I went from like my fundamentalist, which I didn't even realize was fundamentalist, to that, and then I kind of on my way out, I kind of touched on like Buddhism and New Age stuff, and then I was out completely.
Most people in the UK do the wishy-washy bit. However,
Yeah,
it's usually a
and so I feel
transition
like-
to leaving completely.
I feel like the arguments need to come out more to talk about that part of Christianity, because I think that's what's coming next. I think that's the next wave of like strong
You're
Christians
right.
is the fundamental,
You're right.
is the progressive and liberal. So I feel like we need to that's the next strong arguments that need to come out against that. And I honestly feel like the key is the textual criticism, because I feel like they hold on to these words of Jesus, but we don't know what he actually said if he existed. So.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing that we also.
How is evolution actually compatible with
Well,
the story?
actually, Laura Robinson, I think is her name, on Twitter.
Yep.
She's a Christian and she's a New Testament. She actually does textual criticism of the New Testament.
I know, and I've been following her, and she's
fantastic.
She really
the thing is
amazing.
The thing is, the atheism has a problem of its own that it needs to deal with, which is kind of connected to that. Is this idea of spiritual atheist? Yeah, it's like, what the fuck is that bullshit?
What is that? And I know Laura Robinson. Sorry.
Hold on.
I'm excited.
Spiritualism doesn't necessarily have to mean anything supernatural, anything wooism. You can, right? You can be meditation. It can be yoga.
No, Neil. This is,
but it's
this idea that something. Yeah, it's this something more than us. Yeah. That which Sam Harris is actually pushing at the minute.
Mm-hmm. Sam Harris.
Yeah, Sam Harris is pushing it, and it needs to be addressed.
Fuck did he go down?
But I mean, is the something more than us? I can see, like, if you're talking about like us interconnected as society, or us. Well, like, I can see the something more than us in that.
What he seems to be insinuating is, as you are meditating, you aren't just getting a peace of mind and body, but you are connecting on a higher plane of consciousness. As in, there is this other supernatural aspect to ourselves.
Really? I haven't listened to any.
Is he saying that, or is he saying expand consciousness? Because that's kind of like the take drugs.
Does it have to do with the fact that he did like the heroic dose of mushrooms?
Not that I'm aware of.
Because I listened to his mushroom trip, and I was like, oh yeah, I get that.
I've only heard of it on one of his podcasts. Literally in them kind of words, and it was the one with Stephen Fry. It's about a year old now, but yeah, he literally said it has another supernatural element to it, which kind of defeats the object of what an atheist is, especially him.
He went to do something else real quick.
Especially with Sam Harris being a hard atheist or agnostic atheist, saying that there's a supernatural element to something kind of
throws you right off.
His own argument. Defeats his own argument.
I when I was listening to his like mushroom experiment, and like I had an experience one time, and I kind of understand that, but like.
Bandcamp.
You had to go there, didn't you?
But like, I get why
she's a flautist.
I played clarinet actually, so and guitar. But
this one time at Bandcamp.
But I did have an experience, a mystical mushroom experiment. And
I gotta play guitar. You play guitar and clarinet at the same time?
No, definitely not.
That's skill right there.
I got to say, American Pie was great.
What the fuck?
No, Russ, this is Canadian Pie. Behave.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
But, I was just saying because I love that entire scene where
sorry.
the girl...
Hey,
okay.
Sorry.
Hang
sorry,
on.
Guys.
Hey.
Let's let Erin finish telling her story first.
I forgot.
Erin, finish telling your story!
What was I talking about?
This one time at Bandcamp.
This one time at Bandcamp when I was 32, and I did mushrooms at home.
Okay.
I had never done that before, but I did it, and my husband and I did it, and like it was. I can totally understand why people who haven't had like euphoric type like that kind of experience would be like, oh, this is totally a supernatural experience. But I had an amazing time with it, and I had those overwhelming feelings of connectedness and love and like something out of body kind of thing. But like it didn't. I could still rationalize it after I came back down, and I was like, oh yeah, that's so cool that our brains can do that.
You realize
the thing, if you are a Christian,
you're still inside your own head.
Yeah,
if you're a
like,
Christian and you take these, sorry, go on.
Oh no, you go on. It's okay.
I'm gonna say, if you're a Christian and you take mushrooms or LSD or whatever, you see Jesus.
Oh
well, no, actually, I would say that like.
Just bear with me a second, Erin. Just bear with me a second, because this is a phenomenon that's been viewed, and this is what particular Christians say.
Yes.
Christians that see Jesus or they see God or whatever. However, if you're a Muslim and you do this same thing, you see Muhammad. Mm-hmm. If you're a Hindu, you see Vishnu or any of the others. If you're Nordic,
you see a giant
God, you see all these. And it just seems to be that each time that one of these religious people releases a study, it's always their deity.
Yes,
that's
whatever
always viewed.
They attribute it to whatever they're familiar with, whatever their scope is, for sure.
Exactly.
The native atheist wants to know if it was a hippie church camp, by the way.
No.
This one time at hippie church camp?
I live in BC. You know, it was just a thing we did one weekend. But
BC guys, you have to smoke.
One time at this hippie church camp, we took some edibles.
And the mushrooms grow wild here. Like
anytime
so the free range.
Anytime they put down new sod anywhere, any neighborhood, within the first year after that sod has been laid, you can go there and pick mushrooms like crazy.
Oh, so it's free range.
The mushrooms grow out of poo over here.
Well, they still, that's what's in the. Never mind. Fuck. Do I?
Well, no, I mean, actual. You can go into an actual cow pasture, and people go and pluck it out of the shit.
I'm sorry, Russ. I've just got images of you sat down on the toilet taking a shit. Before you wipe, you pick your mushrooms out.
Look, what I do in my own personal time is my business. Thank you.
And now Erin's thinking, what the fuck have I let myself in for here?
No, it's fine. It was like before I started deconstructing, I did have an experience at band camp, but I did the mushrooms, and I had that like universal type love type experience, but I didn't attribute it to a Christian God. Did it end?
I just have to know, did it end with fucking an oboe? No.
Did you redo?
You know what? We just had a relatively low
I'm so sorry about my friends, Erin.
Look, that's how the band camp story always has to end. It doesn't matter what. It doesn't matter if it's true. It doesn't matter if it's true.
It did end with me just being like, "Oh my gosh, we're all connected, and I love everybody so much." But then the next couple of days, that's actually what turned my mind towards like new agey type things, and it was so different from my fundamentalist view. I did not attribute it to Jesus, which was probably part of, I don't know, something a little bit different for me. But
maybe it should have been a bit more clear. Those ones that want to confirm their already pre-held beliefs.
I was already doubting.
More accurate.
Yeah, I was already doubting at the time. So for me, I was like, oh, it must be that, there's this non-dualism part of the universe. That's true, but it didn't take very long for me to understand that it was just a brain state, and it was enjoyable and it was good. But
what are your views on deism?
You guys want to smoke an internet doobie? Got like a half one here if anyone wants to. I got another half one in my.
Let me see that again, Neil.
Since I can't drink anymore.
Just put it in the text side chat.
Yeah, that's a roach.
Yeah, put it in the side chat.
We'll
share it.
It's not quite a roach. Roaches are usually less than.
Okay.
I still call this half a doobie because,
you're tight-fisted.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Sure, that works. And then there's the bigger half a doobie.
So Neil is Dutch Canadian.
No, I'm not Dutch.
Half a doobie and bigger half a doobie. I mean,
Just roll them all together, and you
these
have
aren't real precise measurements here, are they?
Says you who use the imperial system.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like you're one of
Shut
3
up.
countries on the fucking planet that still use that crap.
I will say this: Fahrenheit has its use when you're trying to do the temperature in your house because it's a much finer system.
Because my thermostat has it.
The only time Fahrenheit's used is in movie titles.
What else Canadian?
Book titles.
I'm part Welsh,
451.
part Italian, part French, and part English. So there you go. And there's a little bit of Scottish mixed in there too. I'm not too sure.
Look, I'm Texan. We don't really use Fahrenheit or Celsius. We just go outside and say it's fucking hot. It's fucking hot.
I've been there.
That's about it.
I like
I
that.
mean,
How
that's
much
literally.
I was there in April, and I was going, "Fuck! It's hot here, and it's cloudy. What's going on?"
Yes, you came
Thing
in
is-
one of the colder months.
Yeah.
Thing is, we're doing it again. You've gone on about it being hot. We got a fucking Aussie where his country's just been on fire for 10 years.
Yeah.
It's like you guys have no idea
Like
what
he
hot
literally, he's over here. I'm over here saying, yeah, over here in Texas it's hot, and he's just like, okay.
is. I could
Yeah,
roast
he's
a
saying,
marshmallow
"Hey,
holding
that's
it out
hot."
in my living room. So shut up.
Yeah, I just
You
you know,
think
just
that's
reach
hot?
out the
Oh,
window.
my
Yeah.
fucking beer.
He's like, I'd sit there and just stick my hand out, and it automatically melts.
Terry, the fires have come to an end there. I'm assuming by now.
Yes, yes, they have obviously.
That's
Of course, they
good.
wouldn't
That's
last that long.
Well, I don't know, man. Our Okanagan seems to go up in flames every once in a while. Where we live here.
But we're in our winter months now, so everything's settled down now.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's just 30 degrees in shadow.
I have pictures at my dad's place in Summerland, which I'll be heading up to this Wednesday. But don't worry, guys. The show will continue. While I'm up there, I'll be doing my show from his place. And I have a picture standing in my dad's driveway. Just Russ, you can comment. Done. I have pictures that I took standing in my dad's driveway where literally maybe a half a mile away, there was red flames just pouring out of the forest. I could feel the heat from the fire standing in my dad's driveway. And I'm like, I'm not sure I'm going to sleep tonight. Luckily enough, it never made it into Summerland far enough to do any damage here, but there was some places that were lost. But they managed to get the what do you call them? The planes where they scooper planes, and then they dump the water on them, and they were able to maintain it. And then as I'm filming this one, I get a tap on the shoulder from my dad. He goes, "You didn't look behind you." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And the other side of the fucking hill's on fire too.
Yeah,
but it was further away. But it's like, I'm like, "Wow, fuck, we're gonna die." I'm like, "Pack up the camper, Dad. Let's get the hell out of here. Let's go fishing."
Yeah, one year
Come
when
back in the house, still here. Bonus.
one year when the kids were little, we seen the glow over the back of the mountain. We've got a big mountain just next to us here. We could see the glow where the fires were, and we were getting burnt leaves in our yard all over, waiting for them to be embers that could have set fire to the whole area of Wollongong here.
Yeah,
that was a scary time.
Hey, Red.
Yeah, we never got we don't really get fires right where I'm at, but we do get points. Do what?
Do you get 30 feral hogs?
I said unless you start them.
Yeah. Well, unless I start them, of course. I mean, that's what I always do. But no, we do have moments where where it gets incredibly dry because we'll go like long spells without rain, and because it's so hot and dry. Well, of course, I mean, look, don't tell me how to live my life, okay? I'm just saying. But no, but they'll tell us that we can't barbecue outside anymore because it's so dry that if that fire were to just a small piece of it were to fall out of the barbecue pit or whatever, or somebody knocks it over, then
can't even have
you're
a gas
talking
barbie.
about do what?
A gas
Because
barbie.
we do things with wood around here. Come on now, wood and charcoal.
Come on, this is the country that signed out of the climate accords. What do you think they're going to do?
We're the country that sits there and just fucking fucks everything up. I mean, come on now. Like
Look
you
at
can
the
sit there and
tangerine
say,
in the Oval Office.
I know, you can sit there and say, look at this very nice thing, and America's over there already figuring out 10 different ways to fuck it up. Already, like you just barely present it, show it to us, and we're like, oh yeah, we're gonna fuck that up.
Only 10.
Well, at first, I mean, we start slow and then we build up.
That's the short list.
Yeah, that's a short list, man. Come on. And then we try to find ways to fuck shit up. Like, I mean, look at what we've done with our fucking measurements.
Do anything else?
Do what?
I said you're Texan. I don't think you guys know how to do anything else.
No, that's like our job. Our unofficial motto of Texas is, how can we fuck shit up today?
It usually starts with guns, though.
Oh, it doesn't.
Oh, don't go down that road.
It's all about guns. Everything, guns. Like, we solve all of our problems with guns.
Oh, well, fuck, Morph. I didn't know you wanted me on your show. I'm always surprised when people want me on their show. But yeah, I mean, sure, I'll come on your show anytime.
Yeah, anytime.
But I love it how he adds you as an afterthought. He's like, you too, Neil.
My whole life, I'm always the afterthought.
Oh, you've never been on my show. You've never been on my show, Neil.
No, I haven't. That's because you live in Australia.
No, I don't want to hear that, Terry, because there's been several times I've been in your live chat and sit there and said, hey, man, can I get a link? And guess what? I get fucking ignored by Terry.
Sorry, who said that?
Exactly.
Why do you think? Doesn't he sound really frustrated?
Actually, on the serious note, I'm not actually streaming through my channel at the moment because I got a strike.
What happened?
Somebody played a video while I wasn't paying attention, and I think the bot picked it up, and I ended up getting a strike from it. I've got a month to go, so in about a month I'll be back to normal.
Thing is,
I've been streaming through other people's channels. I've been hijacking other people's YouTube channels.
Thing is, at least that one's your fault. At least that one's your fault. What happened to Suris just fucked up.
Yeah, that was incredibly fucked up.
Oh, when his channel got taken over or whatever? Somebody?
No.
Well, no, he got a strike. He got a strike because what happened was he was talking about the riots and whatnot, and he shows a video.
Wow.
Right.
Wow, they're sensitive about all that too.
And then he tried.
The thing is, you got the Young Turks, which are doing exactly the same as what he were doing, but they don't get a community strike.
Yeah,
that's just fucked up.
Well, so the thing is what's even more fucked up about it was that originally it had just got demonetized or something like that, and so he he was trying to figure out why it got demonetized, and whenever he made the inquiry, that's when they re-looked at it and they said, oh, hey, guess what, now you're getting a strike. And it was like, what?
Wow. I even emailed the content creator, and really nice letter, sorry this, sorry that, apologise here, apologise there. Response back, middle finger, not steal videos, just all the defensive, protective type attitude about their video. You shouldn't steal. That's it. Sorry.
Thing is,
but were y'all critiquing it?
Well, I can't remember because I even wanted to re-look at it so I could reanalyze what happened, but because they took it down and blocked it, I can't even review it to even respond to what happened.
Yeah, and that's the thing is,
when we watch videos, the type of video that we were watching at the time, it was a guy's interest in a hobby, so other people, and they were all talking at the time through it here and there, but I don't think it was enough.
I don't know how copyright laws are as far as in Australia, but I know here in America that if you're like critiquing something, which is what Sirius was doing, or
fair use is pretty standard.
Yeah, the fair use is general.
Oh, okay. Well, if that's the case, then I mean, it should be under fair use. Yeah. If y'all were critiquing it or whatever.
Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, everyone was talking, through the video, but maybe not enough, or they just thought they just didn't want to back down because it was their video. Like that's not YouTube's decision. It's it's the creator of the video's decision.
The thing is, with fair use, there's been a wave. If you don't pause the video to talk about it, it's just background noise, and it's like having background music. It's not a critique anymore. That's what people are trying to argue. There's Sirius actually did a video about it because Erin's chair got a strike or something.
That's the other channel I was going to mention to you.
Yeah,
Erin, about Erin's chair. Different spelling of Erin too.
Yeah. But yeah, because Erin had it's not a copyright strike. Because they didn't pause it enough whilst they were talking. So Sirius did a video about it anyway.
Yeah, I don't think I could actually, if I were to do something, I don't think I could ever actually play it. I would just have to do like stills and say, this is what they say here. I would be so threatened.
There is a way of doing it. Like if you edit it properly and so you play a bit of their video and then you stop it and then it's just you talking with maybe a still of them in the background. That's how people seem to be getting around it more and more often. Because the Geek Squad or something like that?
Yeah, Geek Squad do it all the time.
Yeah.
Someone tried doing it against them and they just had that fun.
Oh yeah, they failed though because Geek Squad had their shit together. They always do.
Yeah, they'll sit there and play for a little bit, and then they'll stop and they'll just talk and bullshit about the what they were watching and whatnot, and then they'll.
Somebody really tried it against H3,
5
and
minutes
H3
later
beat the hell out of whoever was going against them.
But there's a company that owns a channel themselves are representing other smaller channels, and they're really smashing it out of the park, even though it's false copyright strikes or claims.
He's on Twitter, Terry. FYI.
Oh, okay.
And then there are people who apparently get paid for pretty much false flagging people.
Yeah, that's what this company's doing.
Like there's okay, so they pay people to go out and false flag. Yeah. And that's fucked up because it's like you'll sit there and the people who false flag you don't have anything to do with whatever was flagged about, and so it gets really frustrating.
Says the frustrated atheist. Just to let you guys know.
That's so fun.
All right, that's it. I'm fucking muting his Texas ass. I got to bring this to an end, guys, because I got to head out of here.
Lame.
I'm the smell of the chicken on the barbecue in the park there is starting to die down, and I'm getting concerned.
You need to go get that.
There's not going to be any left, so I kind of want to pretend.
Just before you do shut it down, the video Sirius did about all that copyright strike was Trisha Paytas steals revenue from smaller YouTubes.
Yes. And that's a good video because it shows how fucked up it is.
All right. Thank you guys for jumping in and hanging out with Erin and myself, even though I think I sent her the wrong link, which is why she couldn't jump in initially. So I resent another one. And thanks again, Erin, for joining me today. It was an absolute pleasure chatting with you. And we are definitely... I'm going to, through Twitter, I'll send you my cell number and I'll text you and stuff because I think you should be involved in the YouTube community and I have some ideas I'd like to bounce off you.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Also, guys, don't forget that I'm co-hosting Talk Heathen tomorrow morning or for you guys in England and Australia.
I'll be watching.
I will be on with Vila Bianca tomorrow. So tune in tomorrow and check it out. It should be a lot of fun. We worked out all the kinks yesterday with all the crew and stuff, all the magicians behind the scene at the ACA, and they're awesome people. And we had we were laughing our asses off yesterday. It was a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I hope to see you guys hanging out in the chat. Well, actually, I probably won't see the chat. They discourage doing that, actually. So I won't see it till after the fact. So I'll know if you've been there. I'm God. I'm omniscient or omnipresent or whatever the fuck.
But look. What if I just sit there and watch it and don't conversate?
I will.
This is you
your...
frustrated. We know that's not possible.
yeah. Excuse me. Let's try and be realistic here.
I might actually ring up and troll you about something.
Oh, you totally fucking should. You totally should. And if you let Vern or whoever's doing it, it's either going to be Vern or...
I'll message Vern on the Discord. I'll get through.
Send him put you through. You know what's funny? I told that cafe guy who does the whole DMT shit to call in, and all the people at the AC are like, yeah, we're not going to take his call. Like,
really?
Yeah, he's permanently blocked.
Oh,
he's called that many times. He's called that much. Cafe.
Oh,
He's an absolute arsehole.
Who?
I remember.
Yeah,
one.
he sits on the Atheist Roundtable.
K-A-F-E-I.
If you've ever watched any of my shows or the Atheist Roundtable, Aaron, you've seen him in the chat going on about DMT and stuff like that.
Oh, the DMT guy.
That's the guy.
I would love to
He
have
literally-
a DMT conversation with people. I honestly would.
Yeah?
He literally sat there in a chat about, I don't remember what show, but he was sitting there pretty much telling us that
He's called
doing
in
the
about it.
DMT thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, doing the DMT thing, the way he describes it, it breaks the laws of physics. And then he just turns around and says, "Oh, but it doesn't break the laws of physics." And it's like,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
how can what?
Yeah.
It was during that Geeks one with that Shannon What's-Her-Face when they were on about her one
Shannon
of the
Q?
times. Yeah.
I
I
love
was
the way
in
he
there with you,
describes
Russ.
it.
I were in there with you, Russ.
Oh
When you
yeah,
handed his ass to him. Yeah.
yeah. We just kept going back and forth with it because this dude was just kept going on and on and on about how pretty much the way he describes it is it breaks the laws of physics. And so when we call him out, you can't break the laws of physics because they're never broken.
Not in our
And he's
user, right?
like,
You can't
Yeah.
do that.
One of
Well,
my
and then he
if you
says,
can prove
"Oh,
that
but
the
it's
laws
not."
of physics were broken, man, you got a Nobel Prize.
Yep.
would love-
And
I would
speaking
love
of
to
Shannon
have
Q, there
nice.
you go.
I would love to get on a conversation about this like DMT and like trippy world of
About.
psychedelics because like
Boot.
I also like the whole astral projection thing and like what do you call
I
it?
thought I did once too.
Lucid dreaming. I can do that. I've done
I
it.
can too. Yep.
Who would
I've
have
learned
thought a fundamentalist would be projecting?
I can do it, and I've done it many times, and
Well,
I think
I will-
it's great. But
well,
I'd love to talk. I love to talk to people about that someday.
it's funny
We'll
though because
talk,
there's.
Aaron. Don't worry.
It's funny because whenever you talk about astral projection and whatnot, it was quite interesting that the CIA actually looked into that.
Mhm.
And
Yes,
what
the
they
men who
found,
stare at
Yeah.
goats.
We could spy
Yeah.
on people.
well, then what they ended up finding out was that most of the information that people were able to give as they were astro projecting,
Mhm.
as far as outside of different areas, was easily shown from like maps or like being able to search it up online.
Yeah.
And then the inner details of the complexes, they were always wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there were
Well,
another one.
that whole
There were a
program
study.
was just a setup by the Russians to make us spend money on it. They lied about their program, and then the United States was forced to just force the United States' hand.
What's his
Well,
David? What's his name?
David Silverman? No.
No. the old remote viewing guy, David something. Right? He used to be on
David-
the fucking Art Bell show all the time. David something.
David Ike,
The thing
Yeah.
is about the
Yeah.
astral projection.
Lizard
Oh,
guy.
reptilian guy?
David
Oh,
Ike.
No. It's a different guy. Different guy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ike
is they're all dressed up lizards.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Yeah.
was one of his. Yeah.
Hey,
The
yeah.
astral projection and the outer body experience
Mhm.
that could be debunked in one sitting.
Yeah,
because
I know. I agree. I agree.
On top of all the cabinets, they put a card.
Mhm.
I think Queen of Hearts, for example,
Hey,
and they
remote
were
viewing
asked about
is easy.
So the
They did that
They
with the near-death experience too, where they
Yeah,
had
that's it. The out-of-body experience. Yeah,
they had the random number generator sitting on top of a cabinet in a surgery
and
room.
They asked specifically about this cabinet and all the details about it. Oh yeah, there were dust up there and all this. Like, it's filthy up there, which is, you know, a pretty safe bet. No cleaner's going to get up there. Did you see anything else? No. Right. Okay. This were up here, and I loved it. I think that were actually
There's a separate one.
Video.
There's a separate one with a random number generator that they used in the hospital because everything is obviously clean in an operating room. You know,
Yeah.
So it's it was you know, what number was up there is what they would ask.
Stargate project.
I love that
Ooh,
conversation.
Stargate. I do like that one.
That people act like that's just like that's the big gotcha moment with like these things, and I'm just like, no, it's not that complicated.
Well, so much for me ending the show.
Okay, sorry. I gotta go too.
Oh,
Sorry.
Sorry, we do this on purpose.
Yeah, the show's
Neil,
ended
this is
now.
our show. This is our show. We do what we want here.
Is that
You're
right?
just chopped liver.
It sure
I
is
know.
right.
I know. All right. Go ahead, Erin.
I was just gonna thank you, Neil, again for having me on, and it's great, and I've enjoyed this, and I'd love to do more in the future as time permits with my kids and all that stuff.
Of course, and I will put you.
Kids.
Yes,
I will.
Madhouse.
I will. I'll make sure that you get in touch with Chris Mallard with the Daily Atheist Show, the Atheist Roundtable. I'll talk to Pastor Mike.
Peter as well.
Sounds great.
Oh, you're going to go for it. Yeah. Peter's got a great show too called Herding
I do.
Cat.
No, I don't. Oh, that's
No.
yeah. That's my name actually.
No.
Okay. Don't you?
I had no idea. I've just been calling you Swede or Irish.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's because that's because I realized that my parents probably would never get on the YouTube and actually look for this, so I really don't care about, you know.
That's
My
my
parents are still
too.
fundamentalist.
Same here.
Yeah. All right, and we all know everyone's fucking names here, anyways, because you guys have been in my streams forever. So, all right, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm going to have some goddamn tandoori chicken if it kills me. So,
Okay.
all right, guys.
For you.
I hate all of you. No, except for Erin, because she's my neighbor and she's also my guest today. So,
And you.
Okay.
All right.
He especially hates me.
Oh, Russ is the worst. Like, seriously.
I am the worst.
I am the worst. Russ was my very first interview on my channel. That he has. Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
All right.
He was your first.
Yeah, you're like,
I
oh,
popped
sorry.
his cherry.
Whoa. My mom is watching.
Oh, I meant sorry. I meant his cherry is very much intact. I'm sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that.
Sorry to boot that up on the roof. All right. Okay.
Don't worry, I'll send some money to y'all so y'all can get some Timmies.
He's going to mute you, Russ. You do realize that.
Way ahead of you.
I thought you were talking about Tim Tams.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons. Tim Hortons. Yeah, I always go there every Saturday morning. I grab my cup of coffee, my bagel sandwich, and my hash brown, and a piece of, and then a brownie because I'm probably already stoned by then. So, all right.
Okay.
Is that a space cake brownie?
Sure. I was spaced when I ate it, so there you go.
Okay.
All right.
Good night.
Good night, Erin. Thanks a lot. And thanks, everyone, for hanging out. I hope you guys had a good time. And until next time, guys, remember, with the whole pandemic thing going on, be well, be safe, and above all, be kind. And like I always say, like the late, great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time.
But stuff.
Rock hard.